Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome back to ITOM Batch 2, Day 22. How are you doing guys today?
Good, Ajay.
Good to hear. Okay, so before proceeding today, any questions from the last sessions related to patterns, related to extension pattern, application pattern, or discovery, as we are going to be start CMDB today?
Nothing from my end.
Okay, okay. So yes, Arati, you want to be say something?
No, nothing from my end. I'm still working through the now learning, so I may have some questions later, but right now,
Sure,
nothing.
sure, no issues. Thank you. So, how many knows what is CMDB in
CMD,
your words?
yeah,
Hmm.
configuration management database where we used to manage our hardware and software applications, both of them, where it was used by different modules like ITSM, uh, ITOM, GRC, different other applications as well.
Okay. So now if I ask you, what is the base table of the CMDB? What is that?
CMDB underscore CI.
Okay. Rohit, Lalit, what is the base table of the CMDB?
Anything that is not extended.
Okay, that's nice. But again, what is the base table of the CMDB?
CMDB CI or CMDB user.
CMDB user. I have not heard that table. No,
Sorry.
I'm asking for CMDB. What is the
CMDB.
base table?
I think because CMDB is all about CIs, I would assume it's CMDB CI.
Okay. Any Arati, do you want to say anything on it?
I think it's CMDB CI too.
Okay, no, it's not CMDB CI. So I'm also surprising, that particular question is also asked me to by an interviewer to me couple of months back. CMDB CI is not a base table. Earlier it was CMDB CI is a base table, but currently the base table of the CMDB is only CMDB. Only CMDB. If you go on your instance and see cmdb.list, you can see one more table. So CMDB is the base table currently, which is capturing all non-IT or non-CI attribute. Okay, means in simple words, if I say you can store any type of configuration item again, but which don't require any CI related attribute like IP address, like MAC address, or like those particular things, right? That you can store basically the information of that CI, like what is the serial number, what is the name of it assigns to which team, what is the model and all, right? But that is only storing that. And now if I ask you, what is the core table of the CMDB?
Should be CMDB CI or CMDB CI objects.
Okay, right. So core table of the CMDB is CMDB CI, which stores the basic attribute of the CIs, means IP address, MAC address, and couple of others related to that particular table, right? Or particular CI. Now, one more thing, what is the relationships table name in the CMDB?
CMDB rel CI.
CI rel.
C.
No, yeah, I'm also going to be confused couple of times on that one. That is CMDB rel CI, CMDB underscore rel underscore CI, where we are storing the complete relationships between the CMDB and all, right? So let me quickly share my screen and showcase you that particular thing, right? Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes.
Okay, so I am on the CMDB table now. This is my base table, as I mentioned, right? And if you see, that you can see the attribute like name, asset tag, asset tag assigned to, and all is there. But if I click here and if I search for IP address, there is no IP address. Okay. If I search for MAC address, there is no MAC address, right? So that is the base table where we are storing the CIs, non-IT CIs and IT CIs as well, but that is not storing any information related to CI attribute or technical attribute of the CI, basically, if in simple words, if I say. So it's storing like, cost center, cost currency, and department domain. That's it. Nothing apart from that, right? So, and last attribute is also here, right? It's storing something warranty expiration, vendor, and all other things, right? But if I go to my CMDB CI table, that is a little bit something different, and which is my core table of the CMDB. And under the CMDB CL, all other tables will be extended, right? So here I can see if I go here, IP address you can see, right? MAC address you can see, and OT related tables is there, OT assets, operation status, right? And the other attribute which is not available, like warranty expiration is there, but there are a couple of things, couple of attribute which is not available. Product instance identifier is not there, right? So that particular table life cycle stage is also not there, right? So that particular table which is capturing or which is storing related to my CI information, that is my CMDB CI. And if I go to CMDB rel CI, it's little bit confusing, but that is something now updated, I think two or three versions back in ServiceNow, right? Because ServiceNow need to be create some base or tables first, and then we have to be core tables, then we have parent table, child table, and so and so, right? So that is there, like and again CMDB relationships table, where we are making a relationships between the CIs, right? Or the CMDB attributes, basically. So if you see parent here, type here, child here, as we already discussed couple of times, if I click on the new, it helped to create a relationships between upstream and downstream relationships, right? Let's take an example. If I put any CI as a parent, I'm just putting any relationships type for now. Okay. Now just tell me, this is one CI parent. This is a child CI, and it's typed by cools cools cooled by. So what do you understand with that? Which CIs will be parent and what will be the child, and how you can say it's a upstream or downstream relationship?
Parent is always an upstream and a child is a downstream, and then the relation, I guess.
And if I change this one to here and this one to here, then what will be the difference here?
I would assume it's reverse. I mean, then at that point, that would become the parent. Uh,
Right. So basically, now when we are creating relationships, we have to be a little bit careful where and what parent we have to be take care and what child we have to be take care. Right. Let's take an example. In simple words,
So
if
how
you
will you
have
treat this relationship, Ajay? You would say that Carol IBM cools Beth IBM, and right? So
Mhm.
that's why that becomes the parent. Carol IBM becomes the upstream, like the parent. So that parent
Mhm.
cools the child, right? That's the way you would read it, correct?
Exactly, right. But
Okay.
there is small understanding about that while you are creating a relationship, right? You have to be get to know. Let's take an example. You have a server, a Windows server, Linux server, or anything, right? Which is any component or anything which is running on below of that particular server. Example, you configured a server, you install while you are configuring, you install hard disk, you install RAM, you install network, you install MAC address, right? So you that particular components, while you are configuring that particular application server or Windows server or anything, right, you will get by default. So in simple words, that are my downstream of that particular server. But on top of it, if I'm installing anything, like if I'm installing any database, if I'm installing any application on that particular Windows machine, or if I'm installing any web server or anything else, that is my upstream application. That means that is top of it, right? So we have to be little bit careful while we are creating that relationships. In that particular one, my application will be parent and my CI will be the child while we are creating upstream relationships. But when we are creating downstream application or downstream relationships, we have to be put my Windows server as a parent and child will be my other component like MAC address or whatever we want to be populate, right? So we have to be little bit careful while we are creating that relationships, right? So
So
that is.
I don't
Mhm.
understand that, Ajay. How is the database that is installed on that server? How does that become the parent?
Because the database which is running on that server is parent, that that is running top of it, right? On the database there are other components which is also be you are when you are installing the database, there are other component also be there, right? So it's not about the parent and child that particular time, it's about what is upstream and what is downstream. But if you want to put the database as an upstream application or upstream relationships, then in that particular case your server will be child only. Getting my point? Let me open one CI. I think that will be good. Showcase you. Oh, already I have it
Does
here.
this mean it's bottom-up relationship? Is that?
Yes. Let me capture this. Let me open all computers. Let me group by the class first. Hmm. Do we have anything here? Yes. Let me open this one. Oh, only two components here. Now, just to give an example here. Up, actually, when you are installing a vCenter, right? When you are installing a vCenter, that vCenter top of vCenter, you are installing ESX server, right? And top of ESX server, you are installing virtual machine, and top of virtual machine, you are installing Windows server. Now tell me, Windows server is a child basically, but why I'm able to see as an upstream? Why these are showing is a downstream application?
Maybe in the discovery that was discovered first.
Okay. No, this is not the case basically. Whatever component you are discovering first, that will automatically take, get the relationships. But this is not the use case here. Like, if we are discovering Windows server first and ESX server later, and then it will create a upstream and downstream relationships. No, the thing is, because as I mentioned, the base component, like, when we are installing a vCenter, the base component of the vCenter is ESX servers and virtual machine. That will be a child. On top of it, what we are installing, what we are running on that it will be always parent. The same way as I mentioned, when we are installing a Windows server, we are installing that out of the box component, hard disk, RAM, CPU, memory example, or MAC address, and whatever network related component, that will be my child. But on top of it, what we are installing, On Windows Server is like a database, application server, web server, or anything else. That will be my upstream relationships, right? So that is simple difference. Just need to be understand. So that will come. Or if you see here, if I click here, like that particular Windows Server, if you see the relationship size as well, right? It will be virtualized by virtualize, and here it's in instance by instance by, right? And if I little bit load more, let me showcase you something is there. No, there is nothing more relationships. Let me pick any other CI. I just want to pick a real. Yeah. See, here my that particular Windows server connecting with these two server component VMware, and then it's connecting to mass storage. But on top of it, what is running? The service are running because we installed on later on that, right? So Outlook web service and this, and that particular service also connecting with this service electronic messaging, and then it's connecting to the IT service. This is all about the CSDM. We will discuss on that point as well, right? How you are going to be define your business application, then how you are going to be define your application service and technical service, and how it will be showcased in the service maps, or basically in your common service data model, basically, right? We will discuss on that point, but this is all about the relationships. If I say in simple words, what in CSDM is nothing. CSDM is not a module. CSDM is nothing. CSDM is just a framework like ITIL version 4 or ITIL version 3. It's just a framework which help us to guide which relationships type, what relationships type, how we are going to manage to showcase the data model of the CMDB, right? So that we are doing here. Like if I open this one, just let me open this. Let me open this as well. So everything, if you see, every service is part of the CMDB CI service. Again, here is CMDB CI service is my parent table, or basically we can say base table, right? Under that we have different type of classifications. If you see business service, technical service, application service table, right? So but they how they created relationships here, they created IT services my top or parent service, which depend and used by electronic messaging, and electronic messaging is also depend and used by these particular two services, right? And where it's running these application, that particular services or application, in simple words, if I say, that is running on my Windows server. So it's depend and used by this. So if this particular Windows server is down or any issue will be occur on that particular one, I can easily identify these all service will be impacted, right? This is the main funda of using the CSDM, and CSDM is not recently introduced. CSDM is used by more than 10 years, right? But that particular time that is not that mature, and they have not given any name. So they introduced like CSDM 1.0, 2.0, and now I think we reached out to 5.0, 6.0 approx, right? So they are just modifying based on the requirement from the customer. They are just doing modifications on that, what customer needs to be do to give or create a report related to that. Earlier, what is happening when we are working, uh, we are not able to get the reports. Like if I just want to be get the reports of the particular service which is impacted by the incidents, we are not able to get it. But CSM is easy because we have created relationships on it. And if we want to be find out And relationships, or if we want to be download or create a report related to that particular incident, or incident, or the particular service, how many service impacted due to that particular instance, we can easily able to download that particular report. So it help us to, you know on that side, to create a report, give the clear visibility or understanding about how my relationships between services will be happen to the CI or to other components as well, right? And that will be happen through CMDB rel CI table only, nothing else. I hope I'm not going to be confuse you guys. You are able to getting me.
Yes, I get it now.
Okay. So this is all these three basic tables which everyone, or that particular questions always also comes in your CMDB, or discovery exams, basically what is base table, what is core table, and what is relationship table. Let me open one thing I just prepared for you guys. Like, I think you already knows about that, right? Core table, any table that exists by default in the baseline instance. Custom table which you create, or which will be created by the admin, and that does not exist in the baseline. And if I ask you baseline, what is baseline, guys? Baseline instance.
The vanilla version out of the box.
Yes, right. Exactly. So which we are getting from the service now, the vanilla version out of the box, where we have not done anything, right? So that is coming. Again, base class is also there, right? So base class, any table that is parent table and has children's extended, but it's not the child of any other table. So base class can be which is not child of any other table, right? And it's have couple of children's tables which is extended by them, right? And again, parent class, that is just simple. I just put it here just to be differentiate between what is the parent and what is the child, basically, right? Parent class, again, any table that has general tables, it's extended by, but that is also the child of any other table. Are you getting it right? Let me showcase you the example of this first, then we'll move to the next things, right? So let me go to the CI class. CI class manager. Just one suggestions from my side. If you are going to be understand, or if you are going to be find out anything related to CMDB, related to CMDB attribute, related to find out that it's which table is extended by which class, right? What will be the hierarchy of it? Just refer the CI class manager. This is have a good graphical representation on it, right? If I go to here and if just close this one, right? If I close this one, you can see configuration item is there, and there are different classes, right? But if I just want to search for my Linux server, right? If when I click on the Linux servers, these are the classes there, right? So Linux server don't have any child class, but Linux server is part of the server, and server is part of computer, and computer is part of hardware, and hardware is part of configuration item, which is our CMDB CI table. If you are able to see, there is no CMDB, there is no base table, it's a core table. CMDB CI configuration item, right? This is mine. So here you can find out that this one. So as I mentioned in last in this one here, parent class. Here my parent class will be all these, right? Server is my parent, computer is my parent, hardware is my parent, right? And this is also child of server is child of computer, computer is child of hardware, hardware is child of configuration item. I hope you're getting it right. Second is child class. Any table that has a parent table is extended from that pertains to any table, but think of it's primarily in regards newly created table to help separate from core custom. Now I just, I just want to ask in the simple words, we have a server table, right? Why we have created Linux server here? Any idea, guys?
There could be Windows Server or some other server.
Right, let me go to till server. Okay. So if I go here in the server, you can see lots of tables, right? But why? Because we can store that all information, these whatever I'm getting here, we can store in the server as well. Why I'm just creating the different tables? And why service now think about it? Let's create a different table.
Because you've got attributes specific to those, like for Linux, you'll have specific attributes that
Okay.
can be stored.
Right. So that is one thing key, like, for specific attribute for specific class. Second is related to find out or to differentiate between, if it is in server, you cannot identify what type of it is server. It's IBM frame, it's a mainframe, or it's a ISM server, or it's a Linux server, or it's a load balancer. You cannot easily able to identify. And I never suggest to populate record in the server table. Never. If you want to be, let's take an example. Let's take a scenario here. Your customer comes to you and asks you to discover one of that device which is not out of the box available here, but the class is not out of the box available. What should you do? Don't use server table.
Create a custom table.
Right, definitely. You will create a custom table under the server table.
Right.
Okay. So the server table attribute will be extended there, and you have couple of attribute from there, and whatever what thing that particular attribute also required, you can create custom attribute on it, right? But don't use. I never suggest to populate server table from any source. It can be discovery, it can be transfer map, or it can be anything, right? This is not suggesting. If you did that by chance, if you updated your server table via integration or by a service graph connector, and the same type of information is also available in Linux server or Windows or any other class, it will create duplicates based on the serial number. And if it is also available in computer or hardware as well, it's also create that. So that is just creating that particular hierarchy just to give you that information. Like these particular component, whatever the part of it, it's a hardware part, right? And again, it's if why it's we are using computer here, because computer is, these are all the computer types, basically CMDB CI computer table, but it's not actual computers. It's computer type of devices, like it's a machine basically, right? So that's why they just give a differentiate, right? But we should not directly populate the data to server table or hardware table. Computer table we should also not populate directly, right? These just showcase me that type of differentiate is there. We have for computer, there is one other different CI where we have to be populate end user devices. That is, I think CMDB CI PC computer, personal computer karke table hai, where we can storing that particular data. But it's in any document, it's not mentioned we should not use computer. We should use computer for laptop, desktop, and other things as well. Personal computers or office accessories, office related laptops and all, right? But we should not use hardware and server. That will be no, because you cannot identify what type of devices it is, right? So my suggestion is always create a custom class. Try to find out what will be the best parent class for it. Okay, and then just create the required attribute if you want to be create some custom attribute on it. So let me go to, I think is that clear, right? I think we have already discussed if I just want to search for database, what will be my parent class for that? So if you see there are lots of database. Database is one of the core table, right? Then cloud database, Mongo, SQL, Oracle, and all, right? So if I click on this again, if you see this is my CMDB CI database, which is my base table, right? It's not extending anything. It's not suggested again to use or populate to anywhere, right? But if I search with database again, And if I go to Mongo database, no, it's not. Database. So basically there is a table, database catalog, where the all Oracle, where MS SQL and other things will be populated. If I go here, this is my CMDB CID DB catalog. And if I go back to my database, and guys, do you know difference between database and database instance?
There are many instances of a database. You can create multiple instances just like virtual.
Right, exactly. Right. Like just like virtual machines, right? So, it's also be, take care while you are discovering your database instances or database, the make sure your relationships or the things will be correctly defined and that will be populating correctly. Basically, we have not to define manually anything that will be automatically happening through the discovery. But when we are doing any, integration or when we are doing any relationships, or when we are populating data from service graph connectors, sometimes we have to be defined manual relationships as well. So make sure you are defining correct. So if I go to database instance, now you can see database instance is part of application, an application part of CMDB CI, right? And it's extending all type of database instances, whatever that, DB2, HBase, Mongo, whatever, right? So it will populate the data in these particular tables itself. If I go to database itself, database is part of catalog. If I go to cloud database, right? It's not, it's a cloud database. It's part of database instance only, but yeah, database, Oracle database, right? It's part of DB catalog table, right? So we just need to see what is the parent table of it, what is the child table of it, and how we can populate the data, right? Now, let me tell you about, we have already discussed, but yeah, let's discuss on these particular things as well. So I have just opened the Windows server. If you want to find out, what is the backend name of the table, you can find out in the same, uh, basically what we called is this hierarchy or CI class manager, right? It's extensible or principal class. We can also find out here, right? It's not extensible. It's principal class. I mentioned about that one principal class. Anyone remember that? Hello, anyone remember what is that principal class? This is also asked one of the interviewer to me related to what is principal class. Principal class is that if we check this particular checkbox, that will be available on my configuration item field, whatever that will be applicable, right? So if you remember, if I'm creating an incident, let me go to the incident here. And I think this is the basics things which no one going to be tell you, right? So if I go here, let me create an incident. Right, here is configuration item field. It's now exposing CMDB CI complete table, right? And how it's going to be configured, it's not mandatory basically, but if I go to configure dictionary, right? So they have just put it the reference of the CMDB CI table. It's a reference table which is created on a task, and reference of the CMDB CI, if they specially mention there and they just put it that reference equation as well, right? But if what happens if I put this one as a principal class and let me save this? Is this override that one? Let's see. I don't think so. It's not overriding. But basically, if we don't want to use, let me do in different way. It will not override, but it will, do in, let me do in different way, advanced
So, Ajay, are
configuration.
you saying it's going to override the task table because task table is the master table?
Right. No, 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 no. I'm not saying the overriding the task table. It will, I will say the overriding of the configuration item attribute reference qualifier. Basically, as of now, if you see in my configuration, sorry, on my task table, the configuration item is reference of the CMDB and we are putting that particular reference qualifier there, right? But if let's take an example, if I active this, disactive this one, let me see what will happen. Because basically that particular field is just for to populate those classes only on incident, change, problem, wherever the configuration item field is. So it will automatically, so in that case, if we put it, oh, its field is deactivated, right? So no issues. So basically, if we put, if we, check that principal class, it means those are my principal tables or classes, which I just want to be exposed on the configuration item table. That is the use of basically. Right. So because, we cannot expose as a best practice, we should not expose as well the complete CMDB CI or complete CMDB, right? Because in the CMDB, if as I already grouped by here, where, yeah, here, what is the use of a end user or a a requester of next hopping routing rules? What he understand about that? If I ask you, Lalit, because you are also working in IT, if I ask you to what is next hopping routing rule, what is that? You don't know, right? And you are not going to be use it. You are going to be use, might be if you are raising your incident, if you are from the support team or infra team, or you are from a normally end user, you are going to be select that CI which is impacting you, or that CI belongs to the host classes, like it can be Windows, it can be Linux, it can be router, it can be switch, it can be computer, it can be hardware, right? Or it can be some database instance, but you're not going to be used next hop routing rules, exit interface, router interface, data center zone, and you're not going to be used that UPS, NAT, storage volume. You're not going to be. If you want to be create an issue or any incident, you will create on the top of it where the storage volume is running on it, on that particular server, the main CI, right? So that's why we are not suggesting, or I'm not suggesting to expose the complete CI or CMDB table, CMDB CI table. I'm just suppose, mentioning, check, go with the principal class or modify the existing one, a rule or a reference qualifier using that particular table and put the CMDB CI hardware table. In the CMDB CI hardware table, almost, which whatever the class will be required, that will be part of it. If I put hardware, oh shit, I'm just putting in different way. If I put hardware, if you see in hardware, we have lots of things, right? We have computer. In computer, we have all type of servers and all things. We have converted infrastructures, IoT and other things, right? If we have healthcare devices, that is there. IoT devices is also there. Network, right, which I just mentioned. All type of router, switch, firewall, everything is there, right? If I go to firewall, under there are firewall devices. We have different type of firewalls again. Then we have router, we have IP switches, different type of IP switches. So, almost 95%, which I understand, like all thing will become, whatever a requester required, that will be part of hardware table, right? IoT device is there. As I mentioned, operational OT devices is there, OT control system and all, right? So that will be part of it. So you can use the hardware, or we can use the principal class checkbox to populate there. Second thing, if we want to get more information about that, we can go to the attributes. We can see this is all attribute, this is derived attribute, and this is added attribute. So derived attribute basically, which is derived from the base table, or sorry, the parent table basically, right? So they have not created any custom attribute here. Every attribute which is available on my server table, that is derived from here. If you want to add, you can also create custom attribute directly here. No need to be go to that, uh, object class or creating the attribute from there. You can directly do that from anything from here as well, right? Tomorrow, I think we are going to be discuss. We have 15 minutes now. I think we can discuss on that one, right? So identification rule, we have already discussed on that time, but yeah, let me go through it once again. Identification rules comes in the picture when you want to be identify a CI to populate in the table. And we have to be a little bit careful while again writing the identification, right? So let's take a scenario where again a new class is there. Out of the box is not that one, and you want to be discover, and you want to be populate the unique records in that particular target table. How you are going to be identify, or where you are going to be apply your identification rule to populate that particular record? Any idea?
Maybe create a something similar to a pattern kind of thing to identify.
Patron, okay. Arati or anyone else?
Are you asking us what step that would be performed or where the setup would be done?
Both. What steps to be performed, or where needs to be set up to be done?
So what was your question again? Like if you have a custom table, if you create a new custom table?
Hmm. You created a custom table and now you need to be configure the identification rule, where you are going to be configured and what you have to be think about it while configuring that identification rule.
So you will configure it right here in the CI class manager for that custom table, right? Right here.
Yes, yes.
And first you would try to search, or you would have your first identify rule on that table itself,
Hmm.
and then on the parent.
So
Okay.
I would say that you will verify in the classification part of it once you've classify what the classification does, and then you figure out this is the new class, and that's when you would kick off the identification rule.
No, I definitely agreed. Ki once that is classified, we can trigger it off. But the point is how, what what identifier entries you are going to be create, how you are identifying while a record is populating in that particular class. It's a unique record. That is my question.
So similar to this, right? Like here also for hardware, you're first looking at priority, right?
But it's not my hardware table, it's my Windows server table. Why I put it to hardware? That is again a question.
Mm.
Getting my point? Let me tell you. Basically, always when we are creating a custom class, that will be always a part of any parent class, right? Now, the second thing is we need to understand, we need to analyze the data of that particular one, or might be we have to be sit with the customer to understand what attribute you are passing through the discovery, whatever, or what attribute you are looking through the discovery, point number one. Okay. Or if we are doing some, uh, service graph connector integration or normal integration, we just need to understand what attribute you are giving to me, right? On those particular attribute itself, we are trying to find out, is there any attribute which is already available in ServiceNow parent tables, like serial number. Here, if you see serial number, or here it's you can see serial number example. If it is already there, then there is no issue to write a rule or identifier entry on parent table, right? But if any attribute you are not able to find out which is belongs to your parent table, then you have to be write a dependent rule on the that particular class only. There are two type of rule. If you see here independent, this one, if I replace this one, this is independent and this is dependent, right? So independent is independent in different word. If I say it's dependent on hardware class, okay, and dependent is depend on the same class which you want to be populate the data. Getting my point? So we just need to be make sure ki what attribute is a unique which help to identify. Like if serial number is not there, okay, the name is not there, right? You cannot use as a unique attribute because they are mentioning the serial number and the name. We are getting, for multiple CIs, but still you want to create a unique record in the CMDB. So you need to be find out something different. Might be its correlation ID, might be, XYZ attribute. Then you have to be think what identification rule we need to be apply. If you want to be apply a dependent, when you just go to dependent and save it, right? So when I'm just going to be do that, you can see my entries are removed here. It's Windows Server rule again. Name is there. It's applied to Windows Server only. It's not applying to my hardware table, right? I can add identifier entries. Now, if you can see when I'm creating identifier entries or identification rule, he's asking for three things. Use attribute from main table only. If you think while you're configuring the identification or the attribute belongs to Windows Server only, or might be your custom class only, right? So you are going to be use that one. If you want to be lookup from any other table, if you are creating a relationship with any other table, like, you're populating data to serial number table as well, you're populating data to database as well, or somewhere else, right? If you want to look up from that, you can also populate that one, or use attribute from main and another table as well, means both hybrid. You can also use that, right? So if example, I'm just using this one. So let's take an example. My unique attribute is form factor. I just created this one, right? So where it is, yeah, it's done, right? That is there. If I just want to be add one more, and I'm just using the hybrid, right? So there priority I will put 200. What is my main table? Main table is Windows Server, which is, your custom table example. I just want to be checked based on that correlation ID. Okay, and the next, what is lookup table? From which table you want to be lookup? If the cost ID or example cost, this will be mapping with my cost center is not there, right? Let me take hardware again here. And now you can see if I just try to search hardware, it's not reflecting because we just removed the independent rule from the hardware table, right? So let me take these. This is my lookup tables, right? Let me use disk or let me use cost here. If these things is matching, if my server table, Windows server table disk and Windows server and disk, basically if my correlation ID and the cost matching in the both tables, then will it create a unique record in that CM or on my custom class? Otherwise, no. So we have to be little bit careful while modifying that identification rule and while doing that, and that will definitely you will come to that particular point because it's happening most of the time when you have lots of data sources or more than two or three data sources and you are populating the same data from or same class data from different sources, right? So you have to be little bit careful what will be the unique attribute matching in all three data sources to create or populate to data to target table. I hope you're getting it right. So that must be required.
So Ajay, in this, can you open the form and show us where the Windows Server rule gets invoked, that particular step, so that we can tie it back?
Sorry, come again.
See, the identification rule name is Windows Server rule, right?
Mhm,
Up,
mhm.
up. So, where do we do that particular setup? Can you show us where?
Here only, I'm just showcasing that one only, right? It's just a name only, Windows Server rule, nothing else. Right? It applies on the Windows Server.
Okay.
Right? There are two ways to do that. That is one thing from the CI class manager. And if you go here, it because it's here it's when from I'm doing it's little bit easy to our understanding about it, right? If I go here, let me go here as well. Identifier entries, right? CI identifiers. That is also there, right? If I just search for Windows Server, whatever we modified just right, this is also available here, but it's little tricky here to be managed from that particular module. You're going to be little bit confused here because that graphical representation and that things is little good here. So you can also create, if you don't want to go in the CI class manager, whatever the name we have mentioned here, you can also modify the name as well, right? Or you can also create a new rule, whatever you want to be. If I go to create a new rule, I just need to put the name, table, description, and then once let me put test, let me put rule on the Linux. Okay, submit. Go back. You can see. So if you are creating here now, you have to be provide that that whatever we are doing identifier entry is there as well, right? If I'm going to be create a new identifier entry, now identifier entry is running on the CMDB table. Which table you want to be search it? What is the criterion attribute? Whatever the attribute we are selecting here, there, you can also select, right? Example this. Let me lock. If you want to put any conditions here, that is also right. You can also put conditions. These exact enforce exact count match, allow null attribute, allow fallback to parent rule, that is also there. Allowed null attribute means if that attribute which you have selected here as asset tag, and if you allow that null attribute means if value is blank here, also in that case it's also going to be create a record. And every time if the value is blank on the asset tag, it will create a record. It will if because it's matching, uh, you are allowing on that null attribute as well. Allow fallback parent rule. It will run on the parent side. So that's why I'm not going this one. That's why I'm going to showcase you from this model because it's little bit understanding and little bit easy as well. But I also want to showcase you this one as well later. You can also configure your identifier entries or identification rules from here itself. I hope.
Could you go back to where you had the identification rule on the parent, like on the hardware, like in the CI class manager?
Yeah, yes. But I just replaced it, right? If I just
Right,
want to
right.
delete,
Yeah.
hmm,
So what is the reason that it is on the hardware table and not the uh, on the
let me.
Windows Server table itself? Because those attributes are available on the child also, right? On the Windows Server. So what is the
Right.
reason that they have it out of the
But
box on the hardware?
now because hardware is my parent table, okay, and hardware contains lots of data or lots of other table childs, right? Like if let's take an example now in different word, if my serial number for my Windows server, for my Linux server, for my ISM server, for my IBM mainframe is the same. What do you think? It's a duplicate or it's a unique? Is this possible? Ki the serial number for all four classes will be the same. No, right?
No.
That's why we are putting on the hardware table because hardware table is my parent table and it will check on the hardware table itself because end of the day, any record which is we are going to be created, it's part of hardware table as well, right? because
Yeah,
it's my parent table, right? So
I get
we are checking directly on the hardware table itself. If because we are not checking on Windows Server, because Windows Server we have 20 records, but hardware table we have 100 records because other child table is also part of that one. So we are checking there that serial number is matching there or not. If
whether
it
it's
is not
unique
matching,
or-
that it means a unique record,
yeah, yeah, got it.
because we are putting a unique thing here,
Right,
unique name, unique serial number, correlation ID, product instance identifier. If
got
it
it.
is matching or if we can create a record there, that means it's a duplicate. Definitely it will create a duplicate task.
Right, right,
For and also for duplication or deduplicate task, you no need to do anything. And everything is running on the identification rule itself.
right. Yeah,
Right?
I get it now.
Now you not ask me why I put it the search on the serial number here. It's in hardware, search on table hardware. Why they put it serial number the network adapter? Again, when we are running discovery and when we are discovering a CIA, we are creating relationships of that particular machines to serial number table as well, right? Or populating data to serial number. So when we are capturing the serial number, now I will tell you one more thing. One moment. Yeah, not this one. No, it's a service, right? Okay, let me tell you. So here, this is the serial number, right? This is on CMDB Win server table. That serial number is also available on hardware table. So whatever the rule you are able to see here, this is for that attribute. This is for that attribute. But whatever the rule you are able to see here, this one, this is for that. Where, serial number. Yeah, this is for that. So this is particular table, serial number, valid serial number type is part of serial number table. We just make a related entry here to populate the type and the serial number as well. Why? And why it's running on the first priority and it's on second? Because first of all, we are trying to check the serial number and the serial number type before the serial number itself. That can be possibility. Sometimes it can be your serial number will be the same, but serial number type will be the difference. There are a couple of serial number types like BIOS, chassis, and other things, right? Let me open just to create a record, right? I think there is no drop down. No, I think that is no drop down, but let me open in different way. One moment. Oh, there is no record. Yeah, there is one record, right? You can see Cisco chassis, serial number type, right? So if there are out of the box BIOS, chassis, Cisco chassis, there are a couple of types of the serial number. It depends, which how it depends on the discovery patterns. Whatever configured out of the box, they will collect those all type of serial numbers and populating in the serial number table. And from there, it will populate one main serial number, BIOS serial number. Sorry, my bad. Here, BIOS serial number will be populated here, but all other serial number and type will be populated here. So that will try to check from the CI class manager on the serial number and serial number type. And the same here for network adapter, MAC address and name, they are going to be checking. I hope it's clear, right?
Not quite. So are you saying that this
Yes.
identification rule on the serial number is to make sure that the serial number and serial number type doesn't already exist in that serial number table?
Yes, exactly.
And if it,
Now just tell me one more thing. Example, you might be you're using your phone, right? Your phone always a unique serial number, right? And that can be possibility on your phone. There is one, you know, what we can say PCB or hardware, that one serial number is for that. One serial number for your phone hardware is that. It's never will be unique, right? Like, if we are purchasing, if you remember, if you are purchasing any car, there is one chassis number, right? Chassis number will not be never same, right? But when we are purchasing a car, there is one engine number as well. That is also never be same. We have body number as well. That will also never be same. There are three type of different serial number on that same car. Getting my point? The same here on the infra as well. We have different type of serial numbers. But what is my base or main serial number? My main and base serial number is my chassis number. And in infra side, we call BIOS serial number.
Okay, so if you were to go in order here, and we can discuss, in next class if you want, because I'm not really quite
Yes.
sure if I've got this.
Yeah,
So let's
definitely, we
say,
can discuss on that one again.
yeah. So let's say you start from the lowest priority, right? So you look for the
Yeah.
correlation ID.
Yes.
You don't find it. So then you go to your product instance identifier. You don't find it
Hmm.
there, right?
Right.
Then
Hmm.
you go to your serial number type,
Yes.
and you find the serial number and serial number type in your serial number table.
Hmm.
Then what happens?
The identification will stop. And if it is find already, the serial number and serial number type, it will create a record. Sorry, it will update the existing record if it is
It
find
will
it. If it
update,
is find it, if it is update the record
but it
only.
will update it based on the serial number on the Windows Server table.
Yeah. So see now here, you can see configuration item is reference here.
Oh, okay.
It's not like that key. It will update anything. It will update the serial number type will be find, and it will also check it's true or false, right? And it will update the configuration item, which configuration item it is reference of it.
Which is the Windows Server in our case.
It can be Windows Server or anything, right? Here it's a CMDB CI. If you see, it's a router, and in the router we have the serial number type, right? So
Right,
I think that is one yesterday we discovered. This is that one which we discovered yesterday.
right.
Right.
Okay, I
And
get
now I will do, I think you can also try at your side, do one thing. Just, change the serial number of that particular one.
it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And change the serial number of this one as well.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Just save it and just rerun the discovery. It will create a new record that immediately based on identification rule. If I go to router,
Got
yeah,
it.
it will create a new record.
Yeah.
Where it is right. So I will check the router. I'm just saying if I go to router, this is the correct class. Yeah. So if you see here, that is running on object ID. It's not running on the serial number, right? Now let's see what is the object ID on the router. Do we have here? No, I think let me underscore list. I think I'm on the wrong table. Might be. One moment. Is when that much tabs is open, I'm going to be confused all the time. It's CMDB CI router. No, it's CMDB CI router. If I go here and identification rules, sorry, yeah, it's also running on that, same type of it, right? If you change any of those attribute, right, you just change the correlation ID, just change the serial number and serial number type, you can see it will create a new record immediately because that is not matching with the existing one. You can, if you are rerunning the discovery, it will create new record.
Got it. Yeah.
And the same here, just one more thing to be add here, related entries, whatever is related to that particular router or hardware tables and whatever the components is here, it's also checking that entries as well. If the software installation table, right, remember that is software installation applicable for Windows or Linux server software instance, that will also checking related entries, and it will also not create duplicate there as well, because somehow the entries whatever here it's related to that particular CI, and relationship is there like serial number which I just showcased you, right? So
So do
that
we
is
have
also there.
tabs for all of these in on, like, for example, if you go to the router table, you have tabs for all of these under related items?
No, no, not all of these. So they just created a common which is applicable to hardware. Remember that one,
Right, right.
right? So if it is on hardware, it means it will applicable for all hardware table, whatever the part of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So it will be router, it will be switch, it will be Windows, it will be all, right? If you want to modify, you can do it, and that will be applicable for your table only, what you are want to be applied.
Okay. Okay, next class, can you talk a little bit more about the related entries and show some examples there?
Definitely. We'll discuss on that one. I just want to give you, that is also there.
Right.
So you have one day. If you want to be explored, you can also explore, and we'll discuss on that as well.
Okay, sure.
Right? Yeah. So I think Lalit is already left out. Any questions, Harish, from your side? I hope you're getting it. I'm not going to be confuse you guys.
Yeah, Ajay, nothing from my end, no questions as of now.
Okay, sure. And anything, Arati, from your side before closing the session today?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I think then as I mentioned, I'm not available tomorrow, so we'll connect the after tomorrow at the same time. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.